Fancied up my home bathroom a little while ago. I got a bidet, which, that's right. For those of you who don't know, bidet is a French word that means butthole fountain. And I didn't get like the separate bowl or whatever. It's just a really fancy toilet seat with all the bells and whistles. And it has a remote so you can control different aspects of the experience. You can control the temperature of the toilet seat, which is great. You can make it as cold or as hot as you like. So you can go from Alaskan outhouse to crowded mall. And you can change the water pressure, which is important. I think that factory setting was all the way up because the first time I used it, I was like, my nose is running. And then there's one button on the control called swish or something, and when you hit that, the nozzle that shoots the water out twirls. Not bad. I don't even take my phone into the bathroom anymore. Now that I've got old Poseidon's finger. Boy, I've had some bad experiences using the restrooms in public. I hit a rough one on the way up here, man. Today, it was, I had to go, I went in, and they had the nerve to have a sign up there that says, "We clean our bathrooms every day." With what, a wig dipped in gravy? There are tadpoles in the sink. I had this big party weekend in New Orleans one time, man. It was just 3 or 4 days of pure debauchery, just booze and beer and just food and all kinds of bodily abuse. I check out of my hotel on like that 4th morning. I get about 5 feet outside and my stomach goes, "You fucked up." I was like, oh man. So I go back into the front desk and I go, "Hey, I just checked out of my room. Is there any way I can get back up in there?" And she was like, "No, sorry." It's like, "Oh, is there a restroom here in the lobby?" She was like, "Yeah, it's just that one door all the way across." I turn around, full lobby, just people milling around, families and what. I make my way through them, get to this door, open it up. It's a 1-seater. I'm like, perfect, this is great, because not only am I bathroom shy, but this is gonna be rough. And so I get in there, and I go to close the door, and it's jammed open for whatever. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with it? And so I'm just pulling on this thing, and finally, I get it closed. I go to lock the door and the lock is busted off. There's just no lock there. I'm like, well, this has to happen, so I'll just sit here and I'll hold onto the doorknob just in case. So that's what I'm doing, and it's not pleasant. I don't know what people walking by must have thought was happening. Who's fishing with dynamite? So I'm sitting there and there's a knock on the door and I go, "I'm in here." And just then the doorknob ripped out of my hand and the door swung wide open, and standing there was like this 80-year-old man. And he looked at me and said, "Boo." And I looked up at him and said, "Yeah!" And he goes, "I'm sorry." I go, "It's okay, just close the door." He goes, "Oh, yes." And he goes to close the door, and it's jammed open again. And he's pulling, but he's having more trouble than I did because, his bones are old or whatever, and he's just pulling and pulling. And he goes, I can't. I go, "You have to." He goes, I can't. And finally, he just let go of the doorknob, put his arms up in the air, and slowly started backing away. He goes, "I'm sorry." And I said, "No!" He goes, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Like he's leaving me to die on the battlefield. And then he just sort of disappeared. And now I'm sitting on a toilet staring at a full hotel lobby. I can see everybody, which means everybody can see me. I'll never forget making eye contact with this beautiful woman in a business suit. And she had her suitcase. It's just... And I couldn't just stand up and get the door because I just couldn't stand up, all right? And so he had to sort of like lean way forward and grab this thing and finally get it closed. And I gotta tell you, every now and again, at night, when I'm drifting off to sleep, I hear that old man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sure is nice to be out again, huh? Traveling a bit, being with good, nice people like you. A couple months ago, I went and gave that COVID a try. I had heard a lot about it. I knew people were doing it. I was like, why not? Turns out not for me. My body and brain didn't care for it too much, but anybody else have it? Yeah. Anybody have it right now? I had to go get that big test, you know, the nasal pap smear or whatever. That was a real treat. Nurse sat me down, and then she pulled out this giant Q-tip that looked like Bob Barker's old microphone. She grabbed me by the top of my head and leaned it back, which was oddly hot, and then she jammed this thing like 6 inches up into my skull and started scraping around like she was getting the last of the peanut butter out of the jar. She was like, "You doing okay?" I was like, "I'm fine, House. Just finish this." She pulled it out, she did the other nostril, and my arm twitched. I was like, "She hit my brain." And that made me nervous because I didn't want to be sitting there going, "Is this necessary, doctor? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?"